right, welcome to the Prospect Podcast. I'm Coach Schumann. We have a fantastic guest for you today, Coach Brinson of Nichols College. We'll dive into a little bit of that in a second. As always, I have Coach D down in my bottom left today. Somehow I got the top slot, amazingly. So, we don't know. We call it like musical chairs. Like sometimes the guest is up there in the top slot. Sometimes Derek's up there in the top slot. Sometimes I'm up there in the top slot. It's one of those things. But we're excited to have Coach on today. Really one of the top defensive minds in the game for a very, very long time. Really has continued to have tremendous success. Currently, defense coordinator at Nichols College, has had really a great road. We'll let him dive into that over the years. But played at the University of Rhode Island. First started out, I think, as after that, like a student grad assistant there for a little bit, and then went on to Keene. Some of his most popular stops and where people may know of him most was at Bryant. He then later returned to Rhode Island in 2004. I think through 2007 was at Columbia. Through 2010 was at Wagner for years, and then moved on to Morehead State, UMass, most recently in 2023, I believe it was, with Don Brown, and just really, really now obviously at Nichols College, building up that program. So it's really awesome to have him on. It's a guy that I got to know quite a bit from the recruiting stops, especially when I was up in North Jersey, coaching there, and got to know Coach, and he's one of the realest guys there is in the coaching game, and always great to talk to. Always someone that will give you, tremendous insight, not just as to what's going on with your players, because obviously, that was one of the things that you could always trust with Coach, that he's going to give you his opinion for his program as to what he thinks about your player, which I always appreciate. It always helped guide me when I had players, like when he would come in and talk to me about a player that he might be looking at or recruiting. I could then get a good gauge. Whether I agreed or disagreed, it was irrelevant. It always gave me a great gauge for me to know, okay, all right, this is kind of the arena this kid could be in. This is kind of the level of where he is. And it helped me also to always kind of help my players to understand that, right? Because we always reach for the moon and from a recruiting standpoint. But it's good to when coaches can be honest with you and tell you kind of where they think you are, whether they're going to recruit you or not. It gives you a good gauge as to, okay, this may be where he wants to play. That may happen, but more likely he may be this level, right? And that helps a lot, because it's not that those things don't happen, because every coach looks at things slightly differently. They look through it in the eyes of the lens of their program, what their needs are. But it does give you a gauge of where your athlete are. And Coach Brinson's always been great with that. That was always one of the reasons why when he came in, I always want to make sure I met with him and talked with him, because he would give me those kind of gauges. And so I just, for me, over the years of coaching, I always appreciated that. And it's not something now more than ever, it's harder to get that from coaches. Even if they're a guy, Coach Brinson's been around a long time, so you're going to get that from him no matter what. He's not going to change that part of him. But it is, I do see it being harder for younger guys to do that as they're moving up, because of the way the world is for them, and they could get fired pretty quickly if the wrong thing is said, the wrong, and they don't have that as much of that opportunity when they're trying to build their career in the world of transfer portal and NIL. And I do feel for some of the younger coaches from that standpoint, but that's why it is great to have a Coach Brinson around, because he's not compromising his moral values or his philosophies of coaching and recruiting. So, Coach, it's great to have you on.
It's awesome to be here. Anytime I get a chance to talk with a bunch of Jersey guys, I relish the opportunity. Okay, and this is a great forum that you guys have set up. Really impressive. Talk to a bunch of people, and obviously, I know you guys. We go back quite a way. So, like I said, anytime I get a chance to talk some ball and help out in any way, always going to do it. That's just the way it is. So I guess, my upbringing in football, has taken a lot of different courses. I started out, grew up in Bergen County. My family was all from Hudson County, all Hoboken pretty much. I went to school at Paramus Catholic High School, played for two guys actually, Gene Pagnosi, who passed away quite some time ago, was a great coach, legendary coach in Hudson County. And then I played for old man Mike Campanelli, who everybody knows that last name. So I was Campy's first year.
Yeah.
Still have a little
from Patterson Catholic.
That's right.
Yep.
I still have a little PTSD from that, but
yeah, I can't imagine that you did it. I can't imagine that you wouldn't. Like, oh man,
that team had some great players.
Yeah, Vito,
obviously, yeah.
At Bergen, sophomore, he was our quarterback when I was a senior. Graduated and went to the University of Rhode Island and really made that choice based on the major. Believe it or not, my undergraduate degree is in marine science. I thought I was going to be the next Jacques Cousteau. And and I didn't choose URI based on football. I chose it, as I said, academically. And then when I got there, I said, I'll just find a way to play. And it took some time, but I played for Bob Griffin and then had a small chance to play for Floyd Keith. And then after that, it was, well, if I'm not going to play, then I still have a passion for the game. Let me try this thing called coaching out. So I was a student assistant for 2 years, graduated in 1995, and came home. And it didn't take very long to make a decision that this was the path I wanted to be on. And I did some, I ran a nightclub in Hoboken. I did all the things you do when you're starting out in Division III. You're out there teaching, you're selling cars, you're doing whatever you got to do to pay the bills. Worked at Keene University for Brian Carlson, who was at the head coach at Pope John for a while, and then I had an opportunity during 1997. I was a defensive coordinator of a bowl game, and I met a guy by the name of Jim Maselli. And if you know Jim Maselli, he's like my godfather in this business. He's one of the greatest human beings out there. He's a great coach, phenomenal recruiter. He was the head coach at Ramapo College and resurrected that program. Well, he started the program at Bryant. And he happened to be the guest head coach on the East Coast team. So I worked for him for five days. And sure as hell later on, he had a job open up at Bryant, and I inquired about it and was hired. And that was really what started my full-time career. And right away, Jimmy saw that my work ethic and trust, and, became the recruiting coordinator. I learned how to recruit from him. So, I know you kind of paid me some props over there about being real when I'm talking to the high school coaches. Well, that's the guy I learned it from, and I still to this day, there's too many used car salesmen when they walk into the high school. And that's not me. I mean, if I like you, I like you. If I don't like you, I don't like you. I'm going to tell you that. That was the way my mother was. That's the way I am. Don't cry in your milk, and I won't cry in my glass of wine. That's the way it is.
Yep.
I'd rather be upfront and honest with a kid so he knows where he stands and build a great relationship, with that individual and his parents and, everybody at his school. And, one of the greatest things is recruiting the same area for 29 years. And it's the same area that I grew up in and played in. So a lot of coaches, a lot of those legendary guys that are still in high schools, remember me from, 1996 when I walked in my first building was St. Peter's Prep, Richie Hansen. First guy I recruited out of St. Peter's Prep when Richie was there. Or going to St. Joe's and sitting down with Tony Karsich. Or going to Bergen Catholic and sitting down with Freddie Stengel. Or going to Hackensack and sitting down with Greg Pohl. Those were all the guys that I grew up with as a player and remembered me when I started coaching. And so that was great. It was a great atmosphere to recruit, North Jersey and the Shore. And eventually I wound up doing South Jersey as well. But, and I left Bryant and went back to Rhode Island. I coached the D-line for a couple of years and the secondary for a couple of years. And worked for a guy by the name of Tim Stowers, who was the ex-head coach of Georgia Southern. Tim was a great guy. And then went to Columbia University. And when I went to Columbia in the Ivy League, I actually, first time that I had coached offense, I was coaching tight ends. So much for the communist side of the ball, but I learned a lesson, all of that from the head coach, Nerese Wilson, who's another great man.
Great guy.
Nerese said to me, because I just wanted to get back on the defensive side of the ball. I was chewing, biting at the bit. And he says, listen, you got to embrace coaching, the offense. He said, you're a teacher. Coaches are teachers. The subject you teach. And I taught bio and physics, believe it or not, when I was coaching at Keene. The subject that you teach is going to change. But the mentality of it, the thought process is the same. And I kind of embraced that, took that to heart. I had a successful run there coaching an All-American, I think one of the first All-Americans since the 60s at Columbia, tight end. And then from there I went to Wagner College. Met and had a chance to work for a great coach, legendary coach, Walt Hamline, as a defense coordinator. Yep. And, Walt hired me based on recommendations of several of his friends and guys that I had worked with or known, and got there in 2011, and had to kind of establish a culture on defense. We had 4 guys that went to the NFL that year. And then 2012, by fate, Coach Tom Masella, who was the head coach at Fordham at the time, came on board and started helping us out on the defense first, then moved over to coach quarterbacks in 2012. We go to the second round in the national playoffs. What arguably was a miracle season. We started out 0-3 and then went 3-3, and then we got hit with Hurricane Sandy, which, as you guys know more than anybody, had devastated, our whole area. And
yep.
I can remember then, this is a good story for young guys. We had shut the campus down. We evacuated the campus, and we were playing Albany, who was 6-0, undefeated at Albany. So they didn't really have any hurricane damage. So we had to get the guys together, and we really didn't take a live snap that week. And got on a bus on Friday morning. That was the first hot meal that they had and the first hot shower that they had, and went out there and proceeded to beat Albany. I believe it was 35-0 or 35-7. Really beat the hell out of them, and then got back on the bus and went home and started a 9-game streak and went into the second round of the playoffs. I'll never forget that. Beat Colgate at home in the first round, which was a shocker, and then flew to the other side of the country and played Eastern Washington on that annoyingly red football field. And that kind of kicked it off. And then I was at the WAG all the way up until about 2018, off and on as the coordinator, but the last 3 years, 16, 17, 18, I ran the defense, and we had, the numbers were amazing. We had 17 guys on defense that went to the next level in that little span. It was crazy. And 3 of them, I think, are still playing. 2 won Super Bowls, and 1 just finished up a 13-year career. So that was impressive for a small school of, 1,800 students, 500 are males.
Right.
And then I went to Morehead State in Kentucky, tried something new. That was basically My Cousin Vinny Part 2. A little different down there, boys, I got to tell you.
Yeah, Morehead, Kentucky's that, yeah.
You're not getting a good slice of pizza down there, I got to tell you. And then came back to the WAG when Coach Masella came back as the head coach. He asked me to come back, and I worked for him for a couple of years, and then I had a chance to get on board with Coach Brown. Coach Brown and I had known one another for a long time, and he is the best of the best when it comes to, just as a person, as a coach, the way he coaches. He's a player's coach. I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. So I got a chance to work with him at UMass for almost 3 years, and then when the business was the business, I wound up at Nichols College with Coach Marino, and Coach Marino and I together at Columbia. So that's kind of my journey all the way through, and some of the people that I've worked with. But tremendous experience. Would not trade it for anything in the world. You guys were joking before, but I was at Rhode Island when it was the Yankee Conference, and then I was coaching there when it was the A-10, and then I was there when it was the CAA, and so that whole transition. And then, you guys, I think we started out, VCR tape just came out when I was first coaching, and then all of a sudden it turned into DVD, and that really, you sneezed and it was internet.
Right.
I can remember doing film exchanges in Logan Airport with 14 tapes in a box and sending them to William and Mary and hoping that sent their tape to us. So I've seen a lot in this business technology-wise and conferences and players, obviously. So what do you got for me?
Well, first of all, it's such an interesting. It's the first time, obviously, after all the time that we've met, that I've really heard you kind of talk about your whole entire background, and it's so interesting because a lot of the guys that you work with or you're around, like when I obviously was playing in college and in high school, like a lot of those were the people that I know, and it's so interesting seeing in football. The paths of the different careers. Don Brown was the Northeastern head coach back when I was playing, and obviously he's one of the great coaches in college football, and obviously Masella, where he was, and it's interesting because obviously my head coach, well, my original head coach was Tom Jackson, and then who passed away I think last year, but then it was Skip Holtz. But it's so interesting that like you see Masella and Holtz and Don Brown and how their careers, continue to grow. And then obviously the guy who was the main head coach stayed there forever, and then he was they went to Colby, right, and stayed in Maine. You know what I mean? And so it's so interesting to see those careers and how they continue to merge and. Going back to even when you were in high school, Paramus Catholic, playing for Mr. Campanelli. Like I think Derek may have heard me talk about this, but I remember back when I played against him when I was at Saddlebrook, and Vito was a freshman at Patterson Catholic, and I was a sophomore, and forever Mr. Campanelli knew me as. I was the running back for Saddlebrook and safety at the time. He forever knew me for the guy who kicked the 75-yard punt. I kicked the 75-yard punt. Yes. So I kicked the 75-yard punt that like changed shifted the whole entire game, put the ball back under 10, and then we ended up winning the game. But it was just that was back in the day when like you would go to a Group 1 program if you were the best athlete in the program, even from time I was sophomore. I mean. I was returning kick. It did everything, right?
Yeah.
Which I always thought was, and me and Derek talk about this in Group 1 football all the time. Like one of the things that's unique about Group 1 football, probably to this day, is that like if you are a standout athlete at a Group 1 school, you do it all. You really have a blast. Like you're playing every position. And I'm saying
you're never leaving the field. You know what I mean? Like that stuff. Guys now would be like, wait, I got to do this. You're like, oh, dude, like I just get to play football every day. Like,
and that was win, lose, or draw. Like, like there were years.
Didn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, Derek obviously played in great teams. We were up and down at Saddlebrook. So we had some good years. We had some bad years. But like, I always just, I was just like, I knew when I was going to play in the game, like I was playing the whole game. College was such a shock to
eye-opening.
Yep. Because I was standing on the sideline half the game.
I was I was so bored, bro. So bored.
Oh. And especially like until you become a starter too, you're like, okay, if I'm playing like 40% of the snaps and you're on one side of the ball, like when you start to calculate it, and that's why it's so important to be able to go hard when you do go in, because you don't realize, like you'll look up and it's I tell people this all the time. Like they're like,
the game, we're halfway through the game.
College hard. Everything around college was hard.
Yeah.
The game was easy. I always thought.
That's the truth.
Even when we were stuck on the field defensively for like, someone drove the field for 10 plays or, it was a long drive and in the A10/8 Yankee Conference, people ran the ball. So if they were plodding along, you might be stuck out there for quite a while if you didn't get a stop. But it really wasn't like tiring. I never really walked away from a game like I was physically tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like from the war, like the fighting. But it wasn't like, like I ran track. I was like, this was nothing, so compared to high school. But it's so interesting, and just the road and all of the guys you coach with. I'm curious, a couple of things I'm curious about before we dive into some things.
Yeah.
Okay, when you were at Bryant, did Andre McLeod play for you at that time?
Yeah. Andre McLeod played for us. Yep.
Andre McLeod, for a long time, he was with us when we were running. We were running all the combines and stuff.
Yeah.
He worked with me for, I think, I want to say 8 to 10 years. I always thought he should have been a coach. He had to, really get a regular job, but eventually. But oh man, I have stories about him that are crazy. But what an athlete! Even when he was coaching with us, I watched him. And I know he played quarterback and then running back, I think there, right? Brian holds the rushing record at one time.
Oh yeah, he played running back to start. We had Tony Granieri, who was a 6'4", tough as nails kid. He was the quarterback, and then when Tony graduated, we moved Dre up to be the QB and went to the triple option because we thought that might give us a little bit of an edge. And obviously, he was anytime you put the ball in his hands, regardless of how you do it, it's a good thing. So
I watched him we were down in Orlando, and and they have these, when you're in the cities, they have these big things so people don't drive into a storefront.
Yeah.
And it's narrow like this, but it's not super narrow, but it's narrow like this, and it comes up about I want to say a minimum of 4 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I'm going to jump on top and land on him with 2 feet. And at the time he's probably already probably 28, 29. He wasn't playing anymore, And he goes, he takes one step and he jumps on it, lands on it at 2 feet. And I was just like, I was like, Andre, I said, you're one of the freakiest athletes I've ever seen. He says, I was just slow, slow relative to elite athletes. He said, whatever the 40 you need to be as a running back to be an elite guy. He said, but everything, he said, I could do everything else, but he said, I wasn't, a flat out bullet. But he's one guy, obviously, I remember. And, Norris Wilson, I got to know him a little bit, obviously from recruiting, but he married a girl that I know. She played for the basketball team at UConn.
Brenda.
It was Brenda. What was her original last name? Was Marquise, I think. Brenda Marquise was her maiden name.
Yep.
And she was basketball player for Gino Ariema, and really, I mean, great person. I was like, you guys are gonna have some tall children, which they did, by the way. I think their daughter played Division I basketball, and the son was I think, a very good football player too. Yep. But yeah, that's just a couple of. It's so interesting how the football fraternity is from that standpoint. I would love for you to start to really dive in, because you talked about how Coach Maselli kind of honed in how you thought about your approach should be as a coach and into recruiting. Talk about that, because I think, that's a really, really unique thing that you bring to the table. And more than ever, I think it's needed among coaches. Talk a little bit about that and how you kind of got to where you thought, okay, this is who I am.
Well, when I worked for Coach Maselli at Bryant, and he had a reputation of being an A-plus recruiter. I mean, he was at Wisconsin. He'd been all over the place, but that was his gig. When it came to recruiting, you were not going to out-recruit him. So a lot of the original model that I started to adapt came from him. Like I said, one of the things that I learned right off the bat was you got to be honest with people. I mean, you're talking about, when you look at it, we are taking their son or daughter, depending on, sport, and we are basically going to act as a second set of parents for the next 4 to 5 years. So there's a tremendous amount of trust that has to come from mom and dad, when it pertains to the coach and the program. So, the worst thing you can do, and what kids will see right through, and so will mom and dad most of the time at the very end of the day, is whether or not you're bullshit. So to me, I'm always going to go and be upfront and honest when I build this relationship. And you guys remember, I mean, in the spring, I would go to every single high school where they had a guy in my area. Okay. I mean, I was clocking anywhere between 6 and 8 schools a day, starting out, Chuck Johnson, 6 o'clock in the morning, you got to be over there at Ridgewood, you know what I mean? Or I'd be meeting my cousin Lou Taglieri, God rest his soul, down in Hoboken later on, or Eddie Stinson, or those guys. I'd find anyhow in the spring to meet with a coach and do clinics and stuff like that, because I believe that's part of the process of building that relationship. But I think when you walk in that building as a recruiter and you're going to sit down with that student athlete, I think it behooves you to be upfront and honest. Don't tell them that they got a major that they don't have. Don't tell them that, hey, we're taking, we have no DBs. You know what I mean? Especially in today's world, you punch one flip of a keyboard and you can see somebody's whole roster. Now that doesn't tell you the
no
whole
doubt.
picture. There's always something behind door number 2, guys. But at the end of the day, that's upfront, honest, build a relationship. Don't sell a product that you don't have. You have to believe in where you are and what you're doing. Okay. If you don't believe in it or you don't know it and you don't trust it, it's never going to come across as being genuine to a kid. You know what I mean? We talk about building culture, right? In a program, you got to go recruit culture too. I've been in programs where, we've recruited guys from teams that have won everywhere they've been. So coming to college, which is a gigantic transition for some of these kids, especially post-COVID, okay, it's been very challenging. And they've managed to get through it because of the culture they had at their former school. When you recruit a kid who's coming from a school that hasn't won or does not have a great culture, it's a huge transition that sometimes they can't make. And now we have to devote more time as coaches to develop that person along more than we would.
Right. Yeah. And not to cut you off, Coach, but even, for example, the former program that I'm at, right? Like these kids that just graduated, they had 3 head coaches in 3 years. You know what I'm saying? So they might be a really freaking good player, or some of them really haven't developed like they should have. Right. Mm-hmm. And you kind of look at that now as you're recruiting, right? It's why I always try and tell players too, like guys, they'll come into the building even if they're not necessarily looking at a specific player, because they know who we are or the structure or the standard within it, that if I want a guy that's from here, or I want a guy who played for so-and-so, because it lessens the gap. That's already a really hard transition to happen. But if they're in that structure, the same thing when we talk to guys on here that are, at some of the higher academic universities, right? And look, you're kind of one of you're a higher academic standard too, right? Guys that come from certain schools where they've been structured within that academic world from the time they walked in the door as freshmen, or, the model of maybe their block scheduling or semester courses, like all of that stuff is easier to transition to the college world than it is if a 4.0 GPA at one school isn't a 4.0 GPA at another, right? When we look at them, they might both be 4.0s, but they're very different in coming from certain universities, and coaches look at that. And I try and stress that to them, right? Because in today's world of recruiting, that's even more splitting hairs when it comes to the high school athlete to the college level. Like we're talking literally the smallest of margins factor into whether or not I'm going to take that guy or whether I'm not. Because if not, I'll just go to the portal, right? Because that's, we've seen that world, which is a whole different conversation when it comes to that world, because you're seeing guys just jump in and this or that. And they're talking about coaches bullshitting and not being honest with guys of, or just who's pulling these kids in so many different directions to thinking the grass is greener or you got a shot here. And then all of a sudden we look at the numbers now and they're still in the portal. They're nowhere and they have nowhere to go, and they can't go back to where they were because, see you later, buddy. Like it's a really different world. I think the way that you've always done it. And I love the fact that, you still stress those relationships, because Dave and I have talked about it a bunch on here, right? The foot traffic within schools themselves has definitely lessened, right? And especially at the level where you're at, getting in those buildings is still so important. But now we've seen more of a stress, and you talked about it a little bit, off air, with the mega camps, right? And the opportunity to go see all these showcases and things like that. Touch on that a little bit, Coach, kind of how you've seen it transition into that world, especially for the level that you're at now, where, the class you're recruiting, they're not looking to talk to you until, you know what I mean? Like, they're walking down they're walking down the aisle for graduation of I guess I'll go here now. You know what I'm saying? Talk about that transition a little bit.
It's the world there, guys. Here's the thing. I mean, when you talk about the whole recruiting process and building relationships and getting in the building and talking to the parents and talking to the coaches and talking to the cafeteria people and the guys, everything else, the other part of it is the evaluation of the athletic ability, right? And, and I'm going to say this, in the old days, okay, we would watch not only the highlight film, but we'd get a game film. What is he doing when he's not making plays? Is he loafing? Is he taking plays off? And trying to get a really good picture. Coach Maselli taught me this, is that, you got to look at everything when it comes to that. And then you got to be good enough in your evaluation to project where that kid is going to wind up. One thing we were exceptionally good at Wagner was evaluating talent. I mean, I'll give you, Cam Gill, who's the leading sack leader for the Louisville Kings right now, his first year in the NFL in Tampa Bay, he wins the Super Bowl, gets a sack against Mahomes, and has a great career in the league and is still playing. He didn't have any offers. He was a Chapel Hill high school kid from Georgia, didn't have any offers. And we happened to go down there and we fought hard for him and we got him and then developed him, and he fit into what I was doing defensively really well. And next thing you know, he's got a great career in the pro. Titus Leo is another kid right now. I think he's playing for the Browns, but he was drafted by the Colts. He was a 6'4" outside linebacker out of Sheepshead Bay that was an offensive player in high school. And I looked at him and I said, my God, he'd be a great outside linebacker, in our 3-4 defense. And sure enough, Titus wound up coming with defense when he first got to Wagner and had a great career. And he's still playing in the pros. I mean, so the evaluation process of athletic talent, and where they fit in your program is just as important as anything else. The showcases give us the ability to see a kid live, to watch him run around, and not necessarily against the best talent in the world, just talent, just something live. How does the kid act when he's not on the field at the showcase? What is he doing? You talk about culture. Culture is how your kids talk, right? How your kids act, and how your kids perform, right? And a person's character always reveals itself when nobody's looking. So what's the kid doing when he's not taking reps out there? Is how's he taking it if he has a bad rep? How's he taking it if he has a good rep? The showcases give us the ability to see that.
Right. Is he the guy that's hiding in the back of the line, right? Is he the guy that's, right? Is he it's a bad throw and it's a palms up type of situation, or he makes that routine knockdown on a one-on-one and he's doing all the bullshit of like this, that, or whatever. And look, we talked to a couple, we've talked to the guys from St. Anselm because they run a really good like showcase camp, this year. I mean, look, that's where I met you, right? Like last year at Immaculata. That's where we first touched base. But, they did one this year. Coach Brain talks about it all the time. And, those guys, hey, like I'm watching warm-ups. Like I'm watching how you conduct yourself during stretch, or, hey, how do you talk to your parents? Right. Like, right. Or even the little things. I know some people think this is overrated or whatever, but for me, this is where that old school in me still comes out. Like, what are you wearing to campus? How are you dressed when you get there, right? Like, I know some of that stuff is fugazi, but to me, I'm old school like that, man. Like, if you're crossing your T's, dotting your I's, and you're presentable in the way, your delivery, right? Like, do you bring your high school girlfriend to campus on a visit? Like, those little things are all tells. And to go back to my point, like, we're splitting hairs now. If I know you have a high school girlfriend that you're in love with and all that kind of stuff, like, where's your focus? Like, where is that? Right. Like, I get it. That might be a little over the top to a lot of people and thinking that, but in a world of where I have to be over the top in order to win and get the best players in my program, because my livelihood depends on you as an 18-year-old kid playing a game at a high level. Otherwise, I'm not going to be around very long, and I'm not going to be able to put food on the table for my family, Coach. So that stuff I think is so important. Go ahead.
No question. One of the things, this is a lost art. I would never bring a kid to campus unless I did a home visit first. Okay. That was a rule of thumb I had, is that I've seen him in the high school. I've talked to the coach. I've met with everybody else. Now I want to go see him at his house, and I don't care where it is. I've walked in, I've gone through the bar.
I can't imagine some of the places you've walked in, buddy.
I've driven through the bayou. I've gone through the desert. I've been in a few spots. And
I've driven all those places myself.
Right. So,
I've seen
Yeah,
them.
Dave's
Some of them I love. Some of them I love. But
yeah.
When
it's
Dave
different.
Dave's stories about doing his camps, man, and traveling from spot to spot, it's one of the things I'm so jealous of, is that he had that opportunity to kind of travel it, and even for you guys that get to recruit, like, and go to other places, and like you said, see other schools and just be in those different type of like worlds,
different cultures, different cultures.
Yeah, man, that's so enticing to me. It's just so cool.
But the point was that, I got a chance to sit in the house with the kid and see how he interacts with mom and dad, and then get a feel for what his home life is about. And then when I felt comfortable and I thought that, this kid is well rounded as he could be, we're going to go bring him to campus, and that way mom and dad were completely comfortable by the time he stepped foot on campus, because I had been in their house or I had talked to them. We'd been at the school a number of times, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, that process of making mom and dad and the recruit feel comfortable with you and trusting you and knowing that you're real and what you're saying and what you're doing, it all goes back to that relationship again.
No doubt about it. I think that's a huge thing. The relationships are critical. I'm sure, because Derek touched a little bit on this, like how people appear on campus. One of the things that's different now is, depending on your level, you're recruiting a different type of I'm not saying different type of individual, different type of things that may come to the table. Meaning, if you're at the highest level, there's actually financial considerations that are, being made. And are we going to spend on this player? And knowing that if we put money in this player's hand, will this player be able to perform? Does he have the right background? It's one of the things that, I think has changed. Now, obviously at Nichols, I don't think it's a huge deal. It's a big deal yet. I don't know, maybe one day that might be, but right now, probably not. I think what's interesting is that, one of the things parents, and I would love for you to talk about this, what parents don't understand maybe as much yet, and kids definitely don't, is that if I'm going to, I'm not just maybe investing a scholarship or financial aid. If I'm actually investing money in you, paying you, there's a whole nother level of responsibility that I'm concerned with, right? I put $100,000 in somebody's hands. Does he know? Is he going to show up at practice now that he's got $100,000 in his hands? Or in some cases, obviously 7 figures, right? So, and one of the reasons why I always think that, like, people are like, they always complain that quarterbacks still get so much money in that aspect. Well, one of the things that, in general, obviously there are quarterbacks that can be crazy and stuff like that. But in general, because they're leaders of your team in general, at least on the offensive side, but a lot of times of your team, those guys have a certain level of stability to them. And so when they invest money in them, they probably feel like, hey, there's more likely that they're not just going to take this money and just not show up for practice. You know what I mean?
Right.
And because of the fact that they're responsible for more things than just their play and performance, right? There's certain positions on the field. Obviously, all the positions on the field are important, but there's certain positions on the field where your play and performance is the number one thing that they're looking for out of you, right? Because you don't have to be. Obviously, it's always great when guys are all leaders, but you don't have to be the leader that the quarterback is, right? You got to do your job, and that's an important job for you to do. But the reason why I bring it up, because it's so interesting. There's like a I don't know, I remember what social media platform it was on, but this guy like posts the actual, literally the payroll, estimated payroll of each position. Have you seen it, Derek? Of a lot of the big school teams.
Yep.
And
we were looking at
you want to be mind blown.
We pulled up Miami or Ohio State, like,
and it probably isn't exact, because it's, you're not always getting all the exact numbers unless people actually disclose it, but it's a pretty probably fair estimate, I would say, in general, the overall numbers. And it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. Like when I see what, like, I mean, these are pro roster numbers, right?
No doubt.
That are being paid out. Like, Like if you're going to look at like a G League basketball player or a hockey player that's a pro hockey player, but he hasn't made it. He's at the highest level, but of the minors. Like those guys must see that and go, my goodness. Like if I, and those guys actually are what you would call pros who got drafted and just maybe haven't been able, in the first or second round, but just haven't matriculated to the highest level or been able to stay at the highest level. Baseball is probably the same way too. So I'm curious your from a recruiting standpoint, because Derek talked a little bit about how, like, obviously the lower the levels, these guys push you off, right? And then all of a sudden they're in panic mode. They're pushing panic buttons, right? How do you manage that process in recruiting? Because I think that's changed a lot from definitely from when you started, but even in the last 10 years where, a guy might be a Division III player, or when you recruited FCS players and you knew, like, those kids kind of knew they were in that area.
Yeah.
These kids now don't. They do not
Delusional.
know that they're a Division III player, right? Talk a little bit about navigating that recruiting process and in kind of how you do it and kind of some of your experiences in it.
When I identify a kid, like if I was at the WAG and I identified somebody and he was an FBS player and I knew deep down I didn't have a shot at him, at the end of the day, I didn't devote as much time into it because I knew it wasn't realistic. If I thought the kid was a legitimate FCS scholarship player, but he thought he was an FBS guy, okay, I stayed on him and recruited him just as if he was right in my ballpark. Because eventually, when Alabama doesn't call and Pitt doesn't call and, Notre Dame's not knocking at your door to have dinner that night, the phone's going to ring for Tony Brinson at wherever I am. You follow me?
Yep.
So if you've done a good job and you've created that sense of trust and been honest with the guy all the way through the process, when the bubble does burst and he realizes he's not going with the hottest girl to the prom, okay, he's going to call you up. So that's the way I've always looked at it. The same thing if I was, coaching Division III now, they think I'm, because we're a Bison, we're green, they think I'm at North Dakota State. They come up and talk to, hey, coach, how you doing? They got all the bounce and they got the smile. And the next thing I said, I'm from Nichols College. They're turned around, they're 88 and out the gate giving me the Heisman, right? It's okay. 8 months from now, you may be talking to me again, right? I don't take any of it personal.
Right.
I don't take any of it personal. You treat everybody equal, just as if they were an FBS recruit, FCS recruit, Division III, doesn't matter. Again, it's the relationship and how you treat people. And if you do a good job and you treat them the right way and you're honest with them, regardless of what the outcome may be, it may turn around and come into your favor. I mean, I had guys that bombed out at Division I that I recruited knowing I wasn't going to get them. So I didn't put enough time in, but I did a good enough job building that relationship. When I went there and they figured out they couldn't play at FBS, they turned around and came back and picked up the phone and played for me. You know what I mean? So again, it's just being a good person, being an honest guy, being real. Don't tell them what they want to hear. Sometimes you got to tell them what they don't want to hear. And again, the kids, like you said, the kids are delusional because they look at the screen and they see the price tags. But the moms and dads are just as bad.
I agree.
You know what I mean? That's the one thing. At some point, hey, Dad, he's not going to go to Alabama, or he's not going to go to Syracuse. Okay, that's not what he is. You want him to be that, but reality is that's not going to happen. So then you're going to have to talk to me at some point. You know what I mean? And as long as, like I said, you're upfront, you're honest, you got a shot, and that's all you really need. The reason why I wanted to get out of the environment I was in 1999 at Keene University was I wanted scholarship to scholarship. Give me apples to apples.
Right. Okay? Let's get an equal playing field.
Correct. Now, it's my job to go be the recruiter and go in there and win the battle. And and believe me, you weren't going to outwork me. You weren't going to get to more high schools. All you young guys, young coaches are stopping for lunch and dinner. Bullshit. I'm rolling. I'm at 2 more schools than you are. That was the way I looked at it. To me, it was a battle, and I enjoyed it. Now you add in, all right, it's no longer apples to apples. It's NIL. Well, we screwed the pooch on this one, gentlemen. All right, we've gotten rid of the equalizer. Saban's right, in my opinion. They need to revenue share across the board for NIL. Make everybody's playing field level. That's
right, because it's not. Right now it's an arms race, right? It's the New York Yankees in the 2000s, right? Like it's now the LA Dodgers, right? Like they're willing, hey, I'll pay that tax because I can, and it doesn't matter, right? And it's why, teams that are smaller market teams, same thing with college football, the blue bloods and the bigger money schools, and now you're seeing like the Texas schools, like Texas Tech, all of a sudden now they're in the CFP. Why? Because they have people that are willing to give you the money to go and just get players, right? If I can pay, dude, SMU,
you need
right?
a billionaire in your stable,
Dave,
not a 100 millionaire, not a 200 millionaire. You need a true billionaire who literally a $50 to $80 million payroll, which is eventually it's going to get to, and maybe higher, who knows. They're the only guys that could part with that amount of money.
Yeah.
Because that's just an interest. That's just interest on their savings account. You know what I mean? Each year. So
it's like Dave. It's like why you look at guys like John Calipari, who leaves the blue blood of Kentucky to go to Arkansas because he knows he's got so and so going to fund the program. You know what I'm saying? Or things of that nature, knowing he can go get players because he has that backing, or guys like Patino at St. John's, right? And now we're talking basketball, which is different, but football.
Patino's got $2 billionaires in his pocket,
right? And think about and he's come out and said, I will never recruit a high school kid again. Like I'm not we're not doing that because that's not what it is. And it's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? So we've already kind of set this standard, even for a guy like Nick Saban to come out and say, hey, this is kind of what's got to be done. Because right now, like it's not the same. And
the Indiana coach just came out and said something similar, which I thought was interesting. Signetti, because obviously he just won the national championship.
Sure.
But he knows, because when you see what Mark Cuban talked about, how they kind of stumbled. He stumbled upon the fact that he was gonna, he's an Indiana alum, that he happened to know the younger brother of Mendoza from the basketball games of sitting behind him, So when he wrote the big check for Mendoza, he kind of actually had familiarity with the family, which was a unique situation. So he actually, because he had some familiarity with the family, when you were investing $4 or $5 million, you have a better possible return on your investment. That is so rare. Like, how many times is a family going to be sitting behind you in a basketball game of a billionaire that their other son happens to also be a top quarterback, right? Like, it's just, these are rare instances. So you see Signetti say that, and it says to me, he's like, this arms race, I don't know if I can win this arms race in the long run.
Yeah.
Cuban has said, I don't know if I can. Am I going to invest that amount of money every single year for Indiana? Like, we won the national championship, and a competitor like Cuban's a competitor, right?
Yeah.
He probably says to himself, okay, we accomplished our goal with our financial investment.
Yeah.
Can I go into guys like him think, okay, what's the next challenge for me? Accomplish this challenge. Do I have to fund now the basketball team to get them to that
It's kind
of talk about it.
You got my blood flowing a little bit now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And this is and I'm gonna paint this picture because this is the way I see it. All right, two Jersey guys gonna completely agree with me on this. It's like The Sopranos. Okay, I come to you for a bag of money, right? You give me a bag of money, right? I come back to you next year for another bag of money. I come back to you the year after that for another bag of money. At what point do you say, oh, what are we doing here? What are we doing? You know what I mean? I'm not going to do this every year. You know what I mean? Okay, you gave me the money. What happens if we don't have a good year? Do I get the money back?
Right.
So it's like, Tony Soprano's walking up with Silvio and the rest of it, knock, knock, knock. I need $1 million every year for the next, 15 years. It's not sustainable. There's no way. There's no way. Unless they figure out a different formula to make it that way. And it's the haves and the have-nots right now. And I learned that lesson at UMass, guys. I mean, we had our whole NIL budget. I don't give a shit if anybody's watching this or knows it or what. I tell you, I'm real. You know, we had $300,000 total. Okay? We're playing Toledo. Their quarterback is making $300 on his own.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's our whole budget. You tell me you give me $3 million in my NIL? Yeah, I'll go find a kicker that'll win 4 more games and we'd still be at UMass and Coach Brown would be rolling. You know what I mean? It's just the reality of it. You know, I mean, and again, you guys know me. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you, but that's just it's the haves and have-nots until they change the formula.
Right.
You know, and we opened up Pandora's box years ago with the transfer portal. That was stupid. And now we've reopened. You know what is the worst crime in history with the NIL? And now, how do we get it right? That's the question. That's above my pay grade. I'm just a guy from Bergen County.
Right. And look, and like you said, and we touched on it a little bit off air, like, you know what I mean? I am sure there are guys that when you sit down with players that you're interested in or parents that are asking, okay, well, what are you paying him?
Yeah.
Like,
what are you talking about?
Right. You know, but
three school guys.
Get your blood from a stone.
Yeah. Right. Like I said, it's like, hey, you're paying me to come here, buddy. Because guess what? Like when you graduate and you're getting this, right? Like that's what it's going to be. But that's not what they see on social media. That's not what, you know, the uncle who's like, well, he should be making money playing at this school is telling them, right? That's what their, you know, some of their trainers are telling them, right? It's like, hey, you're really, really good. Yeah, for your little town, you know, in Central Jersey, like you might be the best player, but guess what? Yeah. Like the higher the level, the bigger the ball, the more of those guys are, and the better players they've been playing against. You know what I'm saying?
You know
Coach, you've been around. Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, what's interesting too about the with Division III in particular, that even there, like if you look at the Wisconsin Whitewaters of the world, and even the high academic schools like Colby, right, who's in New England, some of those schools, obviously they're not giving scholarship money, but what they've done in turn, whether it's the state system, which is in Wisconsin, or a private school like Colby, they've done these incredibly large investments in the facilities. And I think so. Obviously, it's happening in Division I, but it's even happening in Division III, not with money giving to the players per se, but with their investment in the facilities. So my guess is that even at the Division III level, a lot of the schools that are really trying to, like, you know, figure out how they can, whether it's within their league or not. Wisconsin Whitewater probably is nationally. Colby's probably within their conference, right?
Yep.
They're trying to attract paying customers that are playing football for you, right? Because you're paying to go to school in most of these instances, that love football, and they want them to be able to have that same level of experience, even though obviously they may be paying as a Division III athlete, as a part of their educational experience, right? So football is a part. So they want them to feel like, hey, man, you may not be playing at a Division I school, but you're going to have a similar experience. So the money you're investing in your education is also going to your scholastic athletic career, right? The opportunity to be able to be the best player you can be, obviously student as well. That's a big part of it. That's why you're going there. But your athletic part is going to be helped. So at least your athletic experience as a part of your whole student athlete experience is still great. Talk a little bit about that. Like, is that something that you're seeing more and more? Is that something that you guys have had to address too?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're unique at Nichols because 65% of the student body are athletes. So over half the schools.
That's a big number.
You know, they're playing a sport in some way, shape, or form. So, you know, you've got a community of truly student athletes, and you've got to cater to them. And how do you do that is, you obviously improve your facilities, and, you give them more opportunities. You treat them like they are FBS players, and, within reason. I mean, Coach Marino did an unbelievable job, before he got there. Those guys were not treated the way they are now. I mean,
no doubt.
It's us when we travel. It's just like, because, between Coach Marino, myself, and another coach, Frank Leonard, we all.
Oh, Frank coaches with you guys.
Frankie, yeah.
Great man. What a great man.
That's our background. So we always try and bring that atmosphere, to our team, and the way we practice, and the way we travel, and the way we dress, and what we do. That's our culture.
Right. And look, and it was the same way for me, Coach, at Montclair State, right? Like, you were a Division III program, but I didn't feel like I was a Division III program. You know what I mean? Especially coming from Sacred Heart, who at the time, I was in the same conference as you were when you were at Wagner, right? Like, we were in the NEC, we were that Division I AA non-scholarship, whatever that was. But I'll tell you what, like, I felt treated like a certain way, right? Whether I was there, I felt like an FCS college player. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew what should and shouldn't happen. I felt like that. The coaches I had, they didn't coach like we were FCS guys. They coached us like, when they were still at Miami or wherever their previous stops had been. And then going to Division III, it was like, all right, some of this stuff is different. And then in talking to other guys at other Division III programs, it was like, oh no, like Montclair does it different, right? Like, this is a different standard. They're not doing it the same as William Patterson and look, there was some intricacies based off of, having a long time tenured coach at Montclair who had been there forever. And this was kind of just like, we do it this way. But I mean, I never felt like, oh, because I'm here, I'm treated on a lesser level. You know what I mean? Like, it was always, hey, this is how we dress. This is the opportunity. Now, there were some things like we didn't have meals or any of that kind of stuff or any of that formal, stuff that at the highest level and now is kind of like part of the package. But I never felt like personally, it was like, oh, this is, just glorified high school ball, which is how I felt a lot of people view it. And to be honest, even now, I feel like a lot of players that look at Division III, they're like, oh, well, anybody could play Division III, right? And I'm like, okay, that might be true. You might get an opportunity, but when you get there, buddy, like, get ready, because all of these guys were just as good as what you think you are. So, and Dave heard me say it 1,000 times. Like, when I was at Sacred Heart, I played with some guys that were really good, and I played with some guys that were like, I can't believe you're here. Like, how did you even get here? And then when I was at Montclair, same thing. Like, damn, like, I'm playing with better players here than I was at the FCS level. It's just those intricacies that kind of go into the levels.
So this is kind of funny. Again, this is kind of showing my age a little bit, but when I was in the NJAC in the mid '90s at Keene, G was over at Montclair State. They had a legacy. Eric Hamilton was at Trenton. Roy Miller was at Jersey City State. They don't have football anymore. Coach Maselli was at Ramapo.
Great program, though. Ramapo, too. Two programs that are now deceased that were really program. Good. Yeah.
Right? So here's, the funny thing was, you could be playing at Clemson on Monday, get kicked out, and you're lining up for Rowan and for Casey Keeler on Thursday. You know what I mean? We had there were no rules back then. We had creatures walking around. We had Duke, who I looked at, and I'd say to myself, Wendell Bates, he should be starting at nose guard for Syracuse. What I mean? Or he was starting at nose guard at Syracuse. You know what I mean? Now he's playing at Keene. The quality of players back then was unbelievable. I mean, you were coaching. Right. You were coaching scholarship guys. I mean, that was just the way it was.
Right. And I even look at like in the early days when Coach Garrett took over for Coach Kakuza at Keene, right? And he kind of started a model of, all right, if you're a bounce back guy, kind of went with the Casey Keeler model, right? Which is why Casey was able to turn Rowan around to a national championships, right? Because those guys that something happened, right? They were wherever. Now all of a sudden they're bouncing back. that's the original transfer portal model right there. Like, hey,
Yeah,
come line up for us and we'll dominate. Right. And we've talked to guys that had been a part of it. When we talked to Coach Accorsi, right, who's now starting his own JUCO program down in South Jersey at Salem Community, right? The world of the JUCOs now, it's like, and we talked to him about when he worked with Casey and how that was the model. Like, we were going to get guys in that had played at a really high level and give them an opportunity, and you could do those things. Now we see it go the other way, right? Now guys are going Division III or going Division II, and they're transferring up and they're playing and they're being successful. Or we see guys do 4 years at an Ivy, graduate, and then go do a graduate year at Duke or Wake Forest or some of these other guys, because they're getting a proven commodity that can come in and kind of help. The thing that always was for me, that was always an interesting thing when it came to the transfer thing, was you have a coach now that's recruited you to a school. He's coached you for 2 years. Now, all of a sudden, he goes from being the OC to a head coach, and he takes his guys with him, right? Like, we've seen guys kind of wipe out rosters, whether it's, Lane Kiffin going from freaking Ole Miss and leaving them during a college football playoff run and takes those guys to LSU and all that kind of stuff. Like, I always thought that, and Dave and I have talked about this too. And look, like, the transfer thing, there's got to be limitations, and there's got to be there has to be stuff put in place for it. And the money stuff we can figure out, that has to be a part of it too. Because if I pay you a certain amount of money and then all of a sudden you up and transfer, well, are you paying that back? Do you just take that? Like, what's that deal? Right. But that's a whole different thing. For me, it was always, if you get recruited by a guy and then all of a sudden that guy leaves, all right, well, then I should be able to leave, no penalty, because, hey, the new guy coming in, I might not be his guy. I might not fit into the system that he wants, or whatever that is. Personal things, right? Like, if, death in families or whatever, sicknesses, like, there should be like a one-time free kind of thing. But you can't just verbal take money, not even show up to campus, and now all of a sudden I'm going somewhere else. Like, to me, that's the Looney Tunes part of it. It's hard to kind of figure that out.
Let me say this to you. UConn is a very good example. They went through what I call the perfect storm. They graduated a large number of guys, who were seniors or fifth-year guys, right? And then on top of that, they lost a tremendous amount of guys in the transfer portal, before Coach Cannell got there. So he had to go recruit, and props to them. Their staff did an excellent job of 60 or more bodies, guys who can play.
Yeah, just numbers, just to put guys on the field, just to have a team. Right. You're not talking talent.
To go and recruit 60 guys in FBS football is, in today's world, where you have to factor in the price tag of the NIL, it's almost, I don't want to say impossible, but it's not easy. It is not easy. And for them to do something like that after going through the perfect storm is admirable. Those guys did a great job. But that's what's happening, is guys are losing all these players to the portal, either because of a coaching change or whatever it may be. And now you've got to go out and recruit twice as many guys as you used to have,
Just to fill a roster.
Just to fill a roster. I mean, what used to be 18 to 28 guys at most in a class, you're timesing that by 3 now. I mean, it's astronomical. And schools have gotten a little smart, because if you're recruiting through the portal, you're saving a little bit of money because you're not on the road all over creation, the way we used to be. So I noticed that a lot in the spring. A lot of guys don't go out, which, again, I was of the firm belief that that's my time to build relationships with the coaches. You know what I mean?
Or Coach, we've seen the model now too, right? And you look at Ohio State as a prime example, right? Like, they have 2 NFL coordinators, right?
Yep.
Like OCDC, those guys don't go on the road. They don't recruit. They have guys that go out and recruit and do that. And we've discussed this, like, the expansion of the Power 4, and even, the other schools that are at that level, the expansion of staffs in general. Look, it used to be, and I'm sure, with your time in different places, right? Like, when you were at Wagner, I'm sure you were wearing a lot more hats than you were at UMass, right? Or just talk about that a little bit, Coach, how you've seen the expansion of just staffs and careers within the game itself kind of change, to where now we have this model where, the highest of the high levels, they have recruiting staffs that literally only handle the portal or literally only handle high school guys. You have coaches that literally only do X's and O's. You have social media staffs. You have relation staff, like NIL staff, guys that literally handle the roster management of what would be like an NFL GM, right? Yeah. With people under them. Like they have people working for them within the program. Whereas back in the day, hey man, you coached and you literally coached X's and O's and individual and tape and made. Now you literally just do one or the other. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I tell you what, that's a great point, and I've said this for years. And I was lucky because I came up. I started out in Division III and worked my way up the ladder. I'm not like some of these guys who popped out of mommy's womb and they're coaching FBS football for $1 million. I didn't work that way. I came up the old school, right? And what that did, but by doing it that way, that gave me an understanding and a humbleness in this profession. When I was at Wagner, and I was in my 40s even, I was the assistant head coach, the recruiting coordinator, and the defensive coordinator. I ran the golf tournament. I handled all the out-of-season fundraising. I had deals on deals with, feeding coaches and taking care of things that needed to get done. We were out there building equipment rooms, painting equipment rooms. You wore every single hat, all right, even though we were an FCS scholarship team. You wore every single hat at Wagner. And that was the greatest experience. Every one of those coaches and GAs, because when they left,
taught you everything.
Justin Hines is the D-line coach of the Seattle Seahawks, just won the Super Bowl, GA at Wagner.
Yep.
PJ Arcuri, he was at Norwich, he's at RPI. Ryan Fullen is a successful high school coach. Vince Tano was one of my analysts, great man. He did everything in the booth. He's
Ryan Fullen is working with me now, buddy. Like,
oh, is he?
we scooped him up. I am so excited. He's working with us now, man. I am so excited to work with him. Just in the couple months we've been standing next to each other watching the weight room before he runs out to coach track, right? Like I'm ecstatic. He's an awesome dude. We're gonna do a lot of good things, man. I'm telling you, I'm so excited to work with him. It's gonna be fun. Because he's got a great look. He was at Cortland. He was at Wagner, right? Oh, like he played at Salve and then did a couple years there. Like, right. Like, then like you said, he was a really a successful high school coach, right? And then he's just recently made this move, after stepping away from being a head coach down there. I think it was Heightstown. And now he's with us as an assistant. Like, oh man, I'm juiced. It's gonna be fun.
All those guys, like, we all came up the same way. So, actually, funny, I'm at UMass. It's 4:00 in the morning. We're coming back from New Mexico State, and, we got to empty the plane. Okay. I'm 50 years old. I jumped right on board. I started throwing the luggage off. Guys looking at me, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? And empty the plane. No, Coach, we got guys who take care of that. You don't need to do that. They go like this, excuse me? I just kept emptying the plane. Why? Because that's what you do. You know what I mean? It's like, guys, I'll jump in a foxhole. That's why the GAs, the GAs that work for me have been successful, is the reason that they knew I was in the foxhole with them. That whatever they were going to do, I was going to be side by side with them, doing it too. And if I could do it at my age, they could do it at their age. And that's how you build trust.
And I've always said that even as a high school assistant, right? Like I came up that way. Like I didn't just get handed a coordinator role or some of these things. Like guys think because, they can play Madden that they should be the OC calling plays. Like I am so thankful for the guys that I worked for that made me coach this or coach that or do this, right? Or, hey, look, this is how we work out a budget at the high school level, right? Or, hey, this is like the equipment stuff you got to do. Like, I'm glad I've always had a hand in it and was willing to do it because that's how I was brought up, right? Like, now when I go someplace, right, I look for, or like if there is another job opportunity, right, like that stuff's on the resume of, I've done the video stuff. I've set up cameras. You know what I mean? I've coached the JV level, offense, defense, like you just kind of, you take it, you learn it so that you always have it. And now you're a Swiss Army knife, right? Like, hey, I need you to coach DBs. Okay, good. Hey, I need you to do running backs. Hey, okay. Hey, I need you to do that. Some of the younger coaches, and I don't want to sound like I'm bagging on them, but it's like they just want to come out, like you said, and be a Division I making $1 million. Like, that's not how this works, buddy. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, or hey, you got to draw up some cards here. Well, what do you mean? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to draw up a card or do any of this type of stuff. Like,
do people still draw cards?
Yes, Coach. People still draw cards.
They do. See, it's
Coach
funny because I like when I do things I still write stuff out and then I put it on digital. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to write it out so I can cross out my mistakes and things that I don't think will work. And sometimes what's in your head, like you pull up something, it's in your head, and then you go and draw it against a defense or defensively do it against an offense, and you're like, you know what, this isn't gonna, this may not work with what we have. You know what I mean? So then you tweak it, and then so I still do that, and then I'll obviously put it on digital. But I that's interesting because I remember the card. That was the hardest thing when I was a head coach that I had to teach guys because they. First of all, we used to be like, hey, man, like, you can go right and left by just flipping it over and tracing the, The guys didn't know that. They didn't know that. They would redraw the opposite side. I'm like, just go over and trace it, and now you just need to label it the opposite way.
Well, when guys draw it up, like, hey, get on the board and draw it, right? And they're drawing plays, like, how do they draw it? Do they draw it like you're standing behind the offense or defense, or do they draw it if it's coming at you? Like, that's always a tell for me of like, all right, this guy doesn't know his ass from his elbow, or like, hey, this guy might have a little bit of a clue. Like, how guys do it, it's just fascinating to me.
I had guys who played in the NFL.
Oh, they're some of the worst, right? Just because you played at a high level don't mean you can coach.
I'll give you the formation. I'll give you the defense. We'll draw up one back power. And they started on defense in the NFL and could not draw up one back power. Okay. Or they get up there and the center's about this big, but the guard is about that big. Right? I said, what, play for Division III and this guy's FBS? It was dinosaurs.
Yes.
What are you doing here? Because at the end of the day, and this is the point that was lost, probably in the last 20 years, all of us started out in a classroom as teachers.
Right.
We got used to 30 people sitting in front of us, and I got to go teach biology on a board, or I got to teach physics on a board. Okay. So we learned how to command a room. We learned what our audience was. We knew what our strengths were. You had to draw with the white chalk. Yeah. Okay. All right. You didn't have a grease board back then. So you got to make sure that the kids can read what you're writing. All those things. Same thing in football. It's no different. So when you get up there and you draw a formation, the formation's drawn up wrong, or things are all different sizes, and you can't block up power or block it to the kids and make it look legible, that's a problem with you as a teacher. So with the GAs, that's guys drawing cards, getting up. I used to put them on the board. Teach me day one install. Go ahead. And I'd sit there and we'd film it. And I go back and we watch the film, and I'd say, okay, your voice inflection here needs to change, or this is the vocabulary that we want to use, or look at your circles, and we put every day they go on that damn board, because when August came around and we went to training camp, I need to know that they can command their own room. Okay, I had to trust them because I can't coach 3 different positions, so I need to make sure that they were coached up enough that they can coach the players, and I had to trust them. So. That's why I still draw cards, because it teaches me how the offense blocks things. I write the playbook. I taught myself how to use Visio. God help me. Because Playmaker doesn't exist, they can't update that thing. So I mean, I learned all of that stuff because at the end of the day, that helped me become a better football coach. So I try and teach the young guys that now. I draw the run game. Another guy draws the pass game. Coach Brown was the same way. Coach Brown would draw every single card in the run game and the pass game.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I've heard Coach Brown speak numerous times, and sometimes you look around that room and it's like he's speaking a different language because he's so technical and so high level when it comes to that stuff. Like I always thought it was funny when I would be at a clinic hearing Coach Brown speak, and you're looking around and some of these guys are like, and this isn't bagging on youth coaches, but like they had never been in an X's and O type of situation with that verbiage or the terminology, like, and it was like they were ready to explode. Like they had no idea what was going on. And that was some high school guys, college guys, right? Because he's extremely technical with it. And look, you're also talking certain places like a UMass where you're getting academically a higher kid, you know what I'm saying, for the most part, right? Where they're going to understand some of those things. But like, I always just thought that was fascinating when guys get on a board and it's like, hey, like at some point you're going to have to be a teacher, right? Like you're not just a rah-rah guy that's going to be out here. And yeah, I'm sure you can, put guys through a 10-minute individual period based off of what you've seen on YouTube, but you're going to have to be in a classroom and you're going to have to teach, because at the higher level, one of the biggest transitions for guys is going into the classroom and understanding how much time off the field with film and meetings and all of that. That's one of the biggest eye-opening experiences, whether you're going from high school to Division I, whether you're going from high school to Division III, the meeting time and the off the field stuff that goes into it, the time and all the meetings, like that is a big eye opener for kids. And again, back to your point, when you come from programs that film practice and you watch tape and you've taught your high school kids how to watch tape and they understand what they're looking at and things like that can really bridge a gap for you as the college coach. And some guys that don't do that, like those kids are lost. They might be a really good player, but when it comes to that side of it, they're behind the 8 ball. And now it takes time to develop that.
I still, one of the teaching method, and my master's was in education, but the teaching method I still go by is, we're going to talk it, we're going to chalk it, we're going to walk it, and we're going to run it. Okay. Right. Because not everybody learns the same way. Everybody's educational input goes in a certain way, and they're not all equal. Dwight Freeney was a good example. I'll always remember this. Coach Azanaro was a good friend of mine. He coached Dwight. He said, he didn't learn from the playbook and he didn't learn from the video. I had to set up a red and a green solo cup. And I'd say, all right, here's the call. Boom. And this is what the offensive tackle does. He's the red solo cup. What do? You should do that. That's how we learned how to play defense. I mean, Coach Pasqualoni, one of the best defensive minds around, the playbook was pretty large back then.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the way that Dwight learned, and I've had several guys that were that way, that they can't learn it from a board. Where they can't learn it from watching film. You got to take them outside. You got to walk them through it.
So Coach, and that's where my teaching background, especially being in the special ed world, has really allowed me or helped my coaching career and kind of just how I can do some of those things, because being in that classroom with, like you said, 20 students and, they're on, an IEP plan and this one's got to have this and this one's got to have that. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're just kind of aiming to hit the masses and then each day cover something where, you can take that, that C average kid and make them a B and the B average kid to make them an A. And you're kind of just hoping that you hit on it's your job to hit on every aspect of learning that is conducive to their best model for them. Right. And if you're not doing that, then you're not a very good teacher, which you're not a very good coach. Right. And I think that's hard for a lot of the younger guys to understand, that you got to teach it in different ways so that they all can grasp it. And they grasp it at different speeds, right? And that's your job to get everybody on the same page by this point, right? And you got like 4 days to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's why structure and organization, like that stuff, like Dave and I have talked about that all the time. I was fortunate enough to work for Dave under him when he was a high school coach. But I know for him personally, and I won't speak for it, but when he transitioned to do the youth stuff, like those guys, like when he handed them a practice plan, those guys, some of his assistants were like, wait, what? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? Wait, what do you mean we're going to do this? Like, well, yeah, there's a model to this, right? Like there has to be a structure to it, because that's just not how some guys operate.
No, absolutely right. Absolutely right. There has to be an organization, a structure, a lesson plan, something that monitors. The biggest thing between coaching and teaching, and to me the only difference really is my exams occur every 7 days for 13 weeks. Okay, everybody else's exams occur twice, a midterm and a final. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, I get measured every 7 days for 13 weeks. All right, and everybody else in regular academia gets measured twice a year, midterm and a final. So that's the difference, and again, we have 16-year-olds or 22-year-olds, in some cases a little older nowadays, that have to make a decision in the span of 3 seconds to 6 seconds when the bullets are flying. And that's not easy to do. That's what our jobs are dependent upon. So we have to do a real good job.
I have one final question before we let you go, because we've taken a lot of your time, Coach. With respect to coaching athletes, right, today, are there some things that you kind of have had to adapt over the years? You talked a little bit about how some people you have to bring on the field, those kind of things, but even coaching styles, are there some things that you've had to adapt over the years with kind of how some of the players are now, how they're raised maybe a little bit differently? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I hear that one brought up quite a bit. I kind of look at it this way: if the players truly believe that you have their best interest at heart, and for some of those guys that their best interest at heart is getting to the next level, whether you think they can or they think they can, if they understand that you're honest with them, you're not going to bullshit them, and you have their best interest at heart, you can coach them as hard as you want. Okay? All right? So, again, part of that piece is you're recruiting guys that want to be coached hard. Part of that piece is proving that, yes, you have their best interest, that you're not there to get them hurt. You were trying to get them to become the best version of themselves that they could be. All right? Then you can coach them as hard as you want after that, in my opinion. And I look at the approach that I've taken with my guys over the years, and I haven't changed my coaching style that much. Changed my coaching vernacular a little bit.
Yeah,
you could say that, but I haven't really changed my coaching style. I believe that this is a hard game, and in order to push a person's body to respond in a certain fashion that it may not want to respond, you have to coach a certain way. Every position is different. I'll give you a real short story. Is when I was at Wagner, I had two guys who were 5'8", 5'9", played outside linebacker. Neither one of those guys were scholarship football players. The two guys behind them were 6'3" and 6'4". They were scholarship football players. One went to the Raiders. The other one was a UMass transfer. And I started the two little guys because they were seniors, and I told them, don't give me a reason to take you off the field. And they were the two toughest guys that I've ever coached to this day. And what I did was I created a culture where the guys behind them, the two big guys, they knew they had to toe the line the way I wanted it done. On the field, off the field, in the classroom. Otherwise, they weren't going to play. And sure enough, that was the culture we created. And it went from one class to the next class to the next class with all those guys. So after the two guys played 874 snaps and only had 14 missed assignments, which is pretty incredible, that set the tempo for the next group. And that was a 6-year run of those type of guys, to the point where the room became like an NFL room. When I walked in, you knew you were going to get some type of joke to start the day. I was going to break somebody's chops, and they could break mine. I have thick skin. I'm from Jersey, right? And then after that, when we started the meeting, it was all business. Bang, bang, bang. There was never any yelling, screaming, or anything like that. And, it was all instruction, and they were into it. And then when we broke the meeting, we were back in normal again. And I've always embraced that concept that for the 2 hours that we're on the field and the 45 minutes or whatever it is that we're in the classroom, it's business. Anytime after that, I'm going to ask you, how's mom and dad doing? I'm going to ask you, how'd you do in the chemistry exam? I'm going to ask you what you ate last night. You know what I mean? And I'll shoot the shit with you. And, that's normal. And that's a healthy environment. And if you can coach in that environment, you can be successful in that environment, then your coaching style, as long as it's real, will carry you a long way.
No doubt about it. I think that's such an important thing. I think the hardest thing too on that, and maybe even in college a little bit, the parents understanding that there are things that you can push as coaches that gets more out of a player as far as buttons go, and knowing your individual players, the more you know them, the more you realize what their personality is and what they need, right? But parents don't always understand that. Some do. There are a lot of great, and I don't like to I see so much stuff with like youth sports and high school sports where they're like always ripping parents. It really, some of it is societal, and some of it is the parent. But I have to say, most of the parents do realize it. It's just that sometimes you get one bad apple, and it kind of like it as a coach. Those are the things that wears on coaches. I think.
Yeah.
Most coaches do know that, like, not 90 out of 100 or 9 out of 10 are really are going to be great. Maybe even 99 out of 100 are going to be great. But the one takes up so much of your time, it does wear on you, right? But I think that's sometimes the thing that I think the athletes realize it, are willing to realize it. The overwhelming majority. Sometimes the parent has a hard time of it because more than ever, that's still their like their baby, and they in their head they can't like they can't take the cringe part to them out of it, like that their kid is getting either corrected or being corrected at a very, very authoritative level, that they have a hard time with that. They have a hard time with that, and they can't stop seeing their kid as the 10-year-old kid that that they spent all their time with, and and that their kid now is a grown, and obviously in football's cases, a grown man, right? And
yeah.
And I think that is sometimes a thing that they may not, I don't think they always mean it on purpose. There's some that do, but I think it's just that, like, they can't get it out of their head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One
of the most important things I ever did back in 2011, I have 2 slides, and to this day I still use them. The first slide in a meeting, a recruiting meeting, when a kid visits the campus and we break up to do a defensive deal, that first slide says, what can you expect from me? Okay? You can expect me to be an educator. You can expect me not to get you hurt. You can expect me to challenge every day. Iron sharpens iron. Okay? You can expect me to have an open door policy. I am not Professor X. I don't read minds. But if you walk through that door, I will solve any problem you have, pretty much. Okay? That's what you can expect to be coached hard. That's on my first slide. My second slide is what I need to expect from you, okay, as a player. Don't be a tourist. You got to toe the line. Be on the no. I want you on the list that is Dean's list, all conference lists. Those are good lists to be on. Don't be in the one that says you missed study hall, you missed class, or any of that. I expect 100% effort when we're on the field for 2 hours or as long practice is. I expect you to embrace the grind, okay, of being a student athlete. So I let it be known right off the bat when we're recruiting a guy, this is what you can get from me, what you're going to get from me, and this is what I need to get from you. And I do it again on the first meeting that we come back to campus in August, just so everybody, there is no gray area, right? So up front, it's black and white, guys. Black and white. Anything else that needs to be decided, we'll talk about. Come on in the office. But that's what day one needs to be.
That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. And coaches who may be listening to this, that's a great template to have, because it really gets yourself out in front of so many of the issues that do come up, and it always gives you a reference point when that conversation does come up. You could always say, hey, remember what I talked to you about when you first came in, or I talked to you about the beginning of the season? Are we fulfilling these things, right? And I think that is phenomenal. I think I'm sure in college a lot of coaches do it, but I'm sure not all do it, and not in that direct manner. You know what I mean? Because I think being direct is so important. The whole thing is they don't have to. The objective is not for them to walk out of their career as an athlete and say, I'm in love with Coach Brinson. The objective is that Coach Brinson put me in a good position to be able to handle all the things that I'm going to have to be able to handle, that I had the experience that I was set to expect to have from a football standpoint, and that I fulfilled those things. And, there are times when the word fun gets thrown around so much. I always have a hard time because I see so many so many things on this, and I'm in these crazy algorithms, obviously, because I'm in youth sports and I do this podcast, and these algorithms, I think Derek are now in a lot of these algorithms too, that I see these things, and they keep people throw around the word fun. And to me, fun is a couple of different things, Fun, kids go out in the backyard, do whatever they want to do. We're supervising, make sure they don't get hurt or anything like that, but they're out doing whatever they want to do, defining their own world of what fun is. That's one part of fun. Okay. Another kind of fun is you're competing, right? Call it recreation. You're competing in recreation, whether you win or you lose. There's there's no repercussions for winning or yes, people celebrate you when you win, but there's, you lose, there's very little repercussions of that. Mm-hmm. That's a different level expectation of fun, right? So no one's saying that, I'm not saying playing time is going to be equal in those situations. Nobody's perfect, all these coaches that do, but there's a different expectation level. Okay. Then there's when you're trying to compete to actually where winning is a certain level of priority, right? High school, that might be the case. Maybe middle school, that might be the case. Or these kids who might play in high level travel things, right? Because that's become a thing, right?
Yeah.
There's a fun level, right? So if you go into that level and you say, hey, we're here to have fun and everybody's looking to compete and be successful, well, okay, you should have defined what that was before. If you're saying, hey, we're trying to be the best we can be, and winning and losing is not relevant because we don't know, we might play a team one week that's way better than us talent wise. We can't control that. That's one thing, but winning may not be the only objective. Competing to be your very best is maybe is probably the main objective. And then obviously you're trying to win in that process.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of fun with that. And then obviously when we get to higher levels like college, where guys are paid livelihoods based off of winning and losing, maybe even at the highest level of high school in certain instances, it depends on the priorities of the high school. If you're at a place that doesn't align with your priorities, you should not be at that place. So, but when you go to college, that's a different. Now, winning is the priority, okay? And you want to win the right way, but winning is the priority, setting objectives from that standpoint. And then the fun you get out of it is the competition part. Like there's a lot of things, I can't say that I loved every practice because I didn't, right? Like, no. But I knew the objective was I was going to have fun doing my best on Saturday, right? In high school, I was going to have fun doing my best on Saturday or Friday night. And to me, I think a lot of parents are caught in this fun thing. And to me, is if you're not there to do your best, how are you having fun?
Right.
Okay. Now in recreation, like even on recreation, okay, when you said kids, like younger kids, you're not asking them to be the best player. But I am asking you to give your best, right? And to me, that we've gone away, gotten so caught in this word fun that even creeps in the where you are. You know what I mean? Right? Like I'm not having fun. What? So trying to be your best is going to give you an opportunity on the competitive day to have a great time because you're prepared. I'd like for you to I know I had said the last one was the last one. I'd like for you to touch on that. I'm not asking for your philosophy on it because everyone, you could say whatever you want, but I think we're so caught in this thing of fun. Like, and my kid has been on teams where coach in recreation has said, hey, we don't care about any sort of winning. I don't care if we win or lose. It's irrelevant. And I can tell you that my son, some of those teams have been really bad. And I had issue with the coach, not with his philosophy of them having a good time, but the philosophy of not expecting to be the best. And if watch guys not even coach kids because they think they should just be out there doing whatever they want to do and have fun. Mm-hmm. I love it. So there's a line there, right? There's a line where you're going too far in the other direction, right? And then, you get a kid that is competitive on your team, and I see kids like they don't care, right? And
Yeah.
your kid comes away and says, that was not fun. I didn't have fun. And the coach said we were going to have fun. Well, getting our butts kicked wasn't fun, and you didn't prepare us at all to be able to have a chance. Love for you to just chat about that for a couple seconds before we let you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's, put it that we're not sitting in a room singing Kumbaya, all right? That's not the way this thing works, okay? Especially at the higher levels. If you're able to create a culture, like I said earlier, okay, where that promotes the student, okay, that is success, that helps them succeed in school, helps them to succeed socially as a person, and helps them succeed on a football field, you've created a good culture, okay? The fun part of it is when you win, okay? That's fun. No, if there's a guy that goes out there and gets his butt kicked, okay, and he says that's fun, he's playing the wrong sport. Go down a block and join the tennis team or something, okay? Should not be playing football, all right? It's fun when you win. It's fun when you're with your guys, okay? The camaraderie part of it is fun. Same thing. That's one of the things I love about coaches, being around the guys, okay? Being around the players, being around the coach. That part of it should be fun, all right? You may not like everybody,
right?
But you got to respect everybody, okay? And in order to be the best or get your players to be the best, you got to love everybody, okay? So, that whole thing, the camaraderie part of it, that's the fun part of it. The winning part of it, that's the fun part of it. Anything else that goes involved, you have to understand is the price that you pay to get to that, right? All the guys that went to the NFL from Wagner College that I coached, played on the defense, or I was their position coach, have come back and said exactly the same phrase. You need to embrace the grind. What does that mean? Okay, you got to like the 2 hours that you go to practice. It ain't going to be easy, but you got to like it, because you got to understand that's what's helping you. You got to like going to the weight room, okay? If you're, and I say this to Division III, you got about 70 days or 75 days in the course of a year that you're wearing pads and actively hitting somebody, right? Okay? There you got twice as many days that you're in the weight room. So that's how important the weight room is to prepare you for the football field. So you got to like going to the weight room. You got to like going to the trainer, and you got to like going to the cafeteria, because taking care of your body is the most important thing you can do. Refueling it, rehabbing it, conditioning it, etc. Those are all important things. You take care of your car? I do. All right? You got to take care of your body, because that's what you're driving. All right? You got to like going to school, because this thing between your ears, that brain, that's another muscle. So you got to work that thing out. All right? That's just as important as your bicep. Okay? And then you got to like doing the extra things. So every scout that used to come by and talk to me as the coordinator, position coach, and say, here's the 5 things I tell you right now. He's in the weight room getting an extra lift. He's on the field doing throws. He's in the study hall, or he's in class. He's down in the training room treatment, or he's in the cafeteria eating. The things that I didn't say he was playing video games. I didn't say he was sleeping in a dorm. I didn't say he was at the bar. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you got to embrace the grind. If you can embrace the grind, then you have at least a shot at being successful. And that's fun.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. So well said. It's such an important thing for people to really understand about us. And when you lose, it's an opportunity for you to teach a lesson.
Correct.
For kids. Like
absolutely.
A lot of guys just go call it up. I see this, call it up, and we'll like teach a quick lesson. It could be 20 seconds if you have to, but teach a quick lesson. Like, okay, this didn't go well. Here's 1 or 2 things that we got to do better for next time.
Right.
That's it.
And
proud of you guys for competing, but I need you to learn that lesson. Learn 1 or 2 quick lessons. I'm sorry.
Hey, this is the last point I'm going to make in regards to that is, I always tell the guys, coaching by nature can be negative sometimes, because all we do is correct, right? We correct stances. We correct body position. We correct height, everything, right? So technique. So at some point in time, if you correct, but you don't build up, then all you're doing is talking down to somebody every day. So I always try and get the coaches to say, all right, listen, you got to find out something he did well today. and make sure that you know that he did. I don't care what it is. Just find something that he did well, as that he knows that you're doing both. You're doing the admiration part, the celebration with him, but you're also doing the correction part of it. And you have to take time, like you just said, Coach. And Sundays for college guys, or Mondays, whatever it is, non-day off. When you go back and watch that film, you can't just throw up the 75 plays. You got to have some type of hit chart for what's important. Hey, guys, this is what our goals are. We didn't meet those goals, and here's what happened, right? If we don't cause a negative play for the offense every series, this is the percentage of times we're not going to be successful, or we are, okay? So did we do that this series? No, we didn't. Okay, that's why we weren't successful. You got to give them – you got to show them why it is. And they all want to know why. That's the why. Well, okay, here's why. This is why. You know what I mean? So I think it's important. Build on your point of talking to them at the end. Yes, absolutely. Trying to be positive as best as you can. I know there's games out there. I've lost heartbreakers. You sit there, coach, and you say, all right, how am I going to get this done? Because if I don't spin this the right way, they're going in the tank.
No doubt.
They're going in the tank. But you got to, again, we have to persevere. We have to get them to fight through some things, and they have to be willing to fight through some things.
Right. It can't just be a handout, right? Where it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like everybody gets a trophy. It's all positive. It's always happy-go-lucky. Like, no, there are going to be some times. And I think guys recognize that too. Like, if you're always that, whatever, positive, and then all of a sudden, like, you got to drill them and you really got to get after their ass, like, whatever, they respect that too. Cause they understand like, oh shit, like at this, like this is on a different level. Like, coach is actually like, he's pissed. Like, we got to get this together. And then they respect that. But I think with that, like in building that, like you have to build that previous relationship to understand so that they understand, hey, coach is doing this in our best interest. He's not just crushing me every day to crush me. You know what I'm saying? Right. Or it's not personal. It's not this or it's that. It's like, no, man, like I am vested and willing to have these hard conversations with you and coach you hard because I care. I always tell the guys like, hey, if I'm not coaching you every play, that's a problem. You know what I mean? Like start to get nervous when I stop talking to you or I stop coaching you up about those little things that you feel right now. Oh, he's nitpicking. He's this, he's that. It's like, hey, well, you said you wanted to play at this level, so I'm going to coach you that way. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to help you transition, and you might not like me now, but I promise you 5 years down the road, like you'll thank me, and that's okay. Right. Cause that's how I was, right? Like, I had coaches that were really hard and really like, when you're in it, you're like, man, this is brutal. But down the road, you're like, man, I am so thankful that guy really took the time and cared and like went into it with me. Cause that's like, that's why we do it.
Well, the third slide I had in that deal that I do with the players, the third slide says how I coach you isn't how I feel about you. Okay. I coach you hard, but I love you. That's part of the deal. The other line that's right below that says a missed assignment will not get you pulled. Multiple missed assignments indicate a negative trend that will get you pulled. Mm-hmm. So they understand right off the bat. You make a mistake, okay, wash it away. Let's go, man. But you make the same mistake over and over and over again, all right, and I've done everything I can in terms of being an educator to try and get that mistake fixed, then, okay, we got a problem. You know what I mean? So now that's a negative trend, and we have to eliminate the negative trend is you're off. Your reps are cut down.
That's it. Nature of the beast.
Incredible, Coach. Great interviews. Great having you on. Great seeing you again.
Loved it.
I'm glad we can finally get it, Coach. I'm glad, man, because it's awesome. I appreciate it, really taking the time. I know you're busy. You like you said, you're down in Florida right now and doing your thing. So good for you, man. I appreciate you, Coach. The time, the expertise, the background and everything. It's always excellent to talk to guys like you that have come from where you've been and where you're at now and doing good things. And again, Jersey guys, we always kind of get them to the forefront if we can. So appreciate you.
Bam. I love it.
No doubt about it. All right, Coach. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
You take it easy. All right. Enjoy.
Thanks so much.
Coach.
All right. Bye-bye. Fantastic interview, dude.
He's a man, dude. He's the best. I mean, how do you look? I always revert back to how do you not want to play for a guy like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does he not look? And I get it. It's probably really hard, right? Like, because I'm sure he is a, high standard execution. This is how we do it kind of guy. But that's as a person, as a player, that's what I wanted. You know what I mean? Like call me out all the time, even when I'm not, even when I'm doing things right. Find something to coach me on, because that's like I needed something to always strive for and always get to that, to keep working and to doing those types of things. And look, he doesn't pull any punches. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's been at, high level, and he's been at, no effect. Like, I'm not saying Nichols is a downgrade for him, but you're getting an FBS coach, right? Like, as a Division III player right now. And that's pretty freaking cool.
No doubt about it. It's really, really, it's great stuff. It's really interesting to hear that journey. Because it's one of those things where coaches, like, players don't really get this is what makes this podcast great. I think they don't get the opportunity to really learn these things about their coaches or guys, and
they don't know.
And that is what gives you get a nice opportunity with podcasting. That, you go to the positive side of podcasting. Absolutely, this is like really, really a positive side of it, is that you get to learn something. Because the truth is, when the coach only has a half hour with you in the beginning, like, you don't really, like, these are things you go back and reference. Like, oh, okay,
yeah,
this, I heard coach talk about this kind of stuff. And I think it's important. I think parents, I don't envy all of them, and you go through it and I go through it, and that you have to sift through a lot of things, because, it is hard to figure out who's telling you the truth, and who, I get all that, you know what I mean? I do get all that, especially in today's world, but it's important to take the time to do that, because it makes a big difference, and you get yourself in a better situation. You get yourself an ability to make better decisions, which is really important, right? And if you don't go in and take the time to learn these things, and you just go off of what you like, hearsay, you got to experience these things for yourself, and you got to go and talk to people who know. And for young coaches, I was this guy when I was young. I was super enthusiastic. I probably still am this way to a standpoint. I always thought I was, a smart guy. I'm not saying there aren't people that are smarter than me. There certainly are a lot of them. And as you get older, you start to, you realize it. But I always thought I was a smart guy. And it's hard when you're young to understand that you still have to learn as you are ambitious, right?
Yes.
And so ambition is a great thing. The guys that are ambitious, that are young, absolutely, there's not a lot of people that are ambitious in the same way anymore. So
no, they're just not driven, or it's any type of
that they're ambitious. But what they also have to learn within their ambition is a level of, okay, I don't have a problem with you being super confident. You should be confident. You're not going to succeed if you're not. But you also have to have enough ability to be humble to listen to things that might help you. And listen, you might listen to somebody and say, hey man, that guy don't know what he's talking about. You still got to take time to do enough of the listening, because it'll help you in the long run, in my opinion, and it'll help you be more successful as an athlete. It'll help you be more successful as a coach. And then listen, like, there's a lot of people that I coached with, and you've probably been the same way. I love these things that he does. I don't love these things that he does. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so when I get in that situation, I'm going to make sure I do it this, and this way, but I'm going to take this and this and this, right? Because you can learn something from the majority of guys, unless they're a complete cuckoo bird. You're going to be able to learn from the majority of those guys and something from them. And I think that that's a really, really important thing. You can't let ambition get in the way of your learning.
Right.
And at the same time, you should not, you don't have to taper your ambition, but you also need to be have enough humility to be willing to learn. No one's saying your goal can't be X and you're not trying to get to X. You know what I mean? It's be humble enough to learn along the way. And I think that, you be successful, and athletes have to do that as well. But I do think it's harder for them. Misinformation is a big problem.
Very big.
And I don't think there are people that provide misinformation on purpose, but I don't think the overall majority provide it on purpose. They provide it from the knowledge base they have. And sometimes that knowledge base is flawed in certain ways. I'm sure we have things that are flawed in some ways, shape, or form. And that's why you should always do your due diligence to figure out what piece of information fits for what your objectives are and what your goals are and what your needs are. And I think that's the key thing. And I think the biggest thing taken away from it, his ability to be genuine, okay, in how he views things is very, very important.
Absolutely.
Because it's hard to find guys that are genuine in their whole process of things. And some of it is forced. Like some of these young guys are forced to play a game that, maybe they themselves are like, oh man, like I really don't want to play the game this way, but if I'm ever going to have a full paying job in this, I'm going to have to play this game. Right. And, so you really have to, you got to know what your compass is. And that way you don't deviate at all from it. And
that's hard.
Very, 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 very hard especially for younger guys to do, when we were coming,
because they're pulled in so many different directions, and there's just they have access to so much more now, Dave, that they see so much more, and they think like, hey, I should be this, or they compare and contrast. I mean, and again, we had dreams and aspirations of doing certain things and accomplishing them too, but we also knew that every bit of information that we were, kind of sucking up as we went along with it, right, and learning was going to add to that in the future. And yeah, we wanted to get there fast, but we also understood that there was a process to it, or, somewhat of a hierarchy where, you kind of had to go through some of those things, but you were okay going through those things because you knew on the back end, it was going to help you in that, right? And you were going to be better for it and all those kind of things. And I think sometimes these guys, they see it and they want it right now. And it's all of this kind of stuff. Like you got to pump the brakes a little bit and go from there. You know what I mean? Like, and it takes some time. And in the world of social media and instant gratification type stuff, like that, the trusting the process and waiting, and kind of getting there and whatever, like it's really, really difficult for these guys to do that because they just want it now at all costs. And sometimes they get it and then they fail because they're not prepared for it. And that's on them. You know what I mean? So you really got to take the time and you respect the guys that have gone through it and understood it at every level and are now showing that like I can be successful, but I had to have to go through some of that in the beginning. No doubt.
I'll tell you what I've had to realize that of my siblings in the sports world.
Oh shit, buddy! I saw that.
I'm brother, number 3 now,
dude. There's no doubt where to go lower than 3. Shit, dude.
I was number 1 for the longest time, man.
Dave, I can't tell you. I saw that. I saw that with your brother. And I loved his response, by the way, of like, hey, it's not just the conference or the division. It's the entire, like, whatever coast or East Coast or whatever he said. It was like bigger than what.
Crack is different. I didn't understand. I don't know.
I was like, hey, Dave, like, damn, man. Like, that's unbelievable, right? Like, your sister, she's been on trending that way for a really long time as an athletic director in college doing all that. And now to see your brother, get kind of rewarded or get some accolades for his work in the track world at the college. Like, dude, it's just awesome. It's so cool, man. Like,
What's amazing?
And obviously, like, your stuff has been there and whatever for a long time.
He got his first college job. Okay. 48 years old. He got his first college. So it's not like he hasn't been, like, he was coaching in high school probably for, I would say maybe for 10 years before that, or maybe not even 10 years, but like, but he was definitely coaching in high school for quite a while.
It's so awesome. It is so awesome.
So you can start your career if you get a chance, right?
Like, if you have the opportunity, right? And we've talked about guys that kind of do that, right?
Like career late.
But David, and think about it. We've talked about it too, like the two models, obviously, to getting into college coaching, especially for football, right? There was always kind of two tracks for the most part, right? Was, hey, you played there, then you went and GA'd there, right? And then you worked your way up there, or you left with a coach that was your guy and, you got promoted that way, or you were a high school coach and you were very successful and sustained winning and did all these things and had some really good players. And now maybe a little later in your career, right? You kind of, then you got on staff, or you took a college job after you had won a little bit in high school. Now we're seeing, obviously, guys getting head jobs or college or high school jobs at a younger age, having some success, and then make that jump to college, right? Like, we've seen it a lot this year, especially, or just in Texas a lot, right? Like, where the high school coach now he's on a Division I staff, or whatever some of that is. So we've always kind of seen that trend a little bit of those two models. But now I think you're seeing it, the ages start to lessen a little bit, even though, like, your brother didn't get that job until he was in his 40s. Like, that was the trend. But now you're seeing it a little lesser with age-wise, where guys are getting these kind of jobs at younger ages from making the jump from high school to college after they're kind of already established. So it's kudos to him, man. Kudos to your family. It's really freaking awesome. I think it's so cool. Your sister has always fascinated me in the way she maneuvers.
Now she started from the get-go. She
being in that role, and you know what I mean, and like being being a female too, like
in that world, yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, even just being a female in an athletic director role, right? Like, we know like the some of the things that go along with that, even in today's society where, the equality thing is like it's more so happening. But even for her, like, being a female AD takes a lot more shit than others would. You know what I'm saying? Just because she's a female, to see her kind of do what she does. And then your brother now, dude, like, damn, Dave, like, I know you're top of the cake, buddy, but like, hey, here we go. Like, holy hell, man. And we're not talking monetary.
No. They're top of the cake, man. Well, my sister might be the top of the cake. She might be the top of the cake monetary too, but
that's what I mean, buddy, because she's like the formal admin lady. You know what I'm saying? But it's really cool, dude. That stuff excites me. You know what I mean? Like, even like my sister, she's not in an athletic world or whatever, but just to see like the position that she holds within her company and how well she does and the accolades that she gets, man, like, it's always fun to see your siblings do successful, still got to talk shit and like, like, hey, you're not better than me, even though she definitely is, but you know what I mean? For me anyway, but it's still fun to kind of have that sibling rivalry, but to see them do really successful. And then obviously, for your dad, like, that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Right. Absolutely.
He's like, hey, I did something right.
I did something right. We did something right. That's awesome. Awesome stuff. Great
good stuff, buddy.
Enjoy your weekend.
Next week, dude, we got some good ones too.
Okay.
We'll talk to one of our former players on Monday. Jeremy DeCaro's coming on to talk about playing at Marist and working his way up from, high school through that. And then later on in the week too, we'll have the head coach from a really high level Solanzium. I think it's how you say it, down in Delaware. Coach Gene Deladon, who's just most recently coached in the Army All-American game, or the Navy All-American game, excuse me, and whose sister actually played at UDEL and was a high-level WNBA player as well. And he's doing really good things down there. in Delaware at his program, producing a lot of high-level athletes and stuff. So I've been talking to him a lot and I've been working to get him on for a while. So I'm glad we finally got it worked out. Because he's right up there with Blum down there in Delaware, kind of, and he's just coaching the the Navy All-American games. So be awesome to talk to him.
Awesome. Sounds great, man. I'm excited to do it.
All right, man.
Good.
Have a good weekend, buddy. You got hoops?
What?
Hoops this weekend? I can't imagine, bro. Check out the podcast from last night too, because Coach Sinke, man, she was unbelievable. She is an absolute rock star, dude.
I wish I could. It was.
It's all good. I just didn't know.
I thought I would have been done because the game was at like.
Yeah, you know how that works.
The game.
But I mean, look,
she just. So I thought maybe it would have been done, but.
I knew she coached. I knew she was the head girls flag coach at Clifton. And then I knew she was the assistant at Montclair State. But what I didn't know was, and I knew she was a teacher, but I didn't know she was a full-time French teacher. And I didn't know until I did some more research. Like, I didn't know she also coaches girls soccer and girls basketball there at Clifton High School. So you're talking, she's a 4-sport coach. She also has a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a girl, right? So she's got 3 kids. And like I said, and she said, and you can see it on the podcast, like her husband, Ralph Sinke, who's the head coach at Clifton. Yeah. Like he said that you guys were in the same circles or either played against each other in high school or something.
Oh,
so
high school?
Maybe because he said he graduated, or maybe before you, because he graduated high school in 93.
He's a year after me.
Got it.
Where did he play high school? Did he play at Clifton?
Yeah. But it was dude. I mean,
I know from when I was coaching my last couple of years in North Jersey was when he took over. I think he was there a few years, and that was when they were really like with Drew Gibbs and DJ and me and DJ asked me to speak on it actually, which we were having these coaches meetings because there was like a big change in Bergen County with the super conference and stuff at that time. And then I obviously ended up moving down here and left. So, obviously I was no longer a part of it, but they were, that's when they formed, like there were discussions about that forming of the, what do they call it? I don't remember what they called it now, the Ivy League or whatever. And like DJ asked me to, speak on it. I was going to meetings anyway, but like to speak about like my experience,
having gotten like JV,
and then at Indian Hill, where I was
building, absolutely. So who was I talking to the other day, dude? Where somebody said Indian Hills and Ramapo, Ramapo, it's not like there's no longer a choice in terms of where you go.
Oh yeah, wow, that's actually probably good for Indian Hills.
Indian Hills. Yeah, I think that was something that
was an issue that I don't know what they decided to do there, but
but I'm trying to think of who I was talking to. I can't remember who I was talking to that brought that up. That said, "Oh yeah, well now they can't just choose anymore." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Interesting.
Like, I was like, "Oh damn!" Like Dave was trying to get that shit done back in the day, like
Yeah, that was the most difficult part, I think, for when Sabella was there, and then obviously, when I was there, and but I was only there, I was there 2 years. If I could have had a crystal ball and saw for sure the next outcome of everything, I probably would have stayed and just built it up. But that commute would have been tough anyway. Eventually,
brutal.
So eventually, I mean, I might have been able to stay for a few more years, until Troy got bigger. But
hey, you'll probably see this pop up too. But
I saw it.
Big news within the shore conference.
I saw it.
Like
it just popped up just now.
It's been a long time coming actually. Like we've kind of known it for a couple months, but I guess it's now like official. So
I think
interesting.
We're talking about the same thing.
New head coach or getting fired. Yeah. I didn't realize that guy was there for that long.
No, I did not realize that either. because I remember when that job came open, but that time obviously flies. Like I don't, like
Dude, it's
I don't
unbelievable.
have the
I feel
same
like we were
time,
just
right?
coaching at RBR. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we were just like there.
I feel like I was just there, but obviously I wasn't. So
Yeah.
like Troy said something to me about RBR. I don't know. It must have been a kid I saw or something and he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, I'm like, that's actually been like 6 years." Oh, he was asking me about. He wanted to look up, oh, when we played North, and you know what? They don't even list it on NJ.com. So I tried to pull it up,
Right.
and
And Gridiron
New
is
Jersey's no longer.
debunked. It's debunked. Yeah, it's
Right.
dead.
So he was like, "What score did you beat Mid North that year?" And I was like, I honestly I couldn't remember. So I tried to pull it up. I remember we came from behind. That's what I did remember. I think we were losing at halftime, but I couldn't remember. And then I think Faragine had an interception that changed the game. That was a big change in the game. But I couldn't remember what the score was. And he was like, he's like, "Did that game happen?" I'm like, "No, if it happened, I guess in the world of scores listed, it obviously didn't happen anymore."
Right.
But we were there. We were physically there. Oh, I know what it was because he was working out with one of the kids who played on that team. That's what it was. And he was asking me. He said he obviously I coached against him. He knew me from that, right? So
Well, all those kids are like graduated college now. Like that's how I always gauge it. Like none of those guys from those teams are still playing because they're done. I mean, maybe one that we,
if you
one
made if you were a fifth or sixth year, probably, right? Maybe I
That's
guess.
it. Yeah, like the one kid who we've had numerous conversations at and have gone to different schools, like he's still trying to play. I don't know his situation anymore, but he might be the only one left. Other than that, like those guys are done.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, I like when I look up and if you tell me, obviously you're same age or you're older than Anthony Pomo, maybe, but
Same age.
So same age. Okay, so when will you?
He was a senior when I was a senior.
Oh, okay. So,
but he might be older, like within the class, because I turned 40 July and I'm younger.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think he already turned 40. So
yeah, I'm sure he is.
So yeah, that to me is just weird.
Right.
That's just weird to me that he's 40.
Right. Like even forgot me. Like I mean, you look at those guys.
That's my peers.
20...
At those 40-year-olds are my peers at these games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, or Dave, when I look at like those kids from that 2017 team at Mount Olive that we went to the finals, right? And like Liam's on year 3 in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, okay, right? And those other guys are like state troopers, and they're like having kids. I'm like, dude, this is bonkers. Or guys I coached my very first year coaching at Passaic Valley they're the head coach at that program. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like, all right. It goes fast, dude.
Okay, so we played 22-17. So that was really a great game.
Listen, the best game we had there ever was our walk-off kick return against Central
game.
Like that's a once in a lifetime game where you're like, I can't believe this happened.
I've had 2 once in a lifetime games. That's one of them. And as far as like crazy endings, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I had one other walk-off the year that our team went to the state championship at Powell Park. The very first game against Hawthorne, overtime. On third down, the quarterback for Hawthorne dropped back to pass it, and my safety jumped I don't know if it was it was something over the middle. Jumped it, maybe it was a curl. Jumped it, picked it, and took it to the house 70 yards. Walk off interception. I've had 2 of those. It's amazing. I don't know if there may not be people that have had those in their whole career. Actually, when that one at Central happened, when that actually happened, I was like, I can't believe this is actually happening again. Another walk-off, like a walk-off win. The first time that happened, I still can't believe that happened. Like you watch the play, and just like when I've watched that play again, they were so incredible because walk-offs, something has to happen in a walk-off for it to be really unique, because
no doubt.
everybody knows to protect against something like that, right?
Right.
So
you like literally know, like, hey, this is the only thing that could happen where this could happen. And you're like, it happened.
yeah, like the interception, the walk-off, the only way he was going to return it to the house was playing
if it
safety.
Right.
He had to jump it because he was playing, back, jumping a route where you had forward momentum, because you're not going to throw it to the outside for that exact reason. You don't want to
100%,
because someone's going to pick and take it to the house. So they threw it over the middle, and he jumped it, caught it going forward on the run, and like two-hand jack, it was a great catch. Like it shouldn't have been a pick. And he picked it on the run, snagged it out of the sky. By the time the quarterback could actually turn the run and get him, he was already at the line of scrimmage before anybody could turn. So he caught it 10 yards down the field, but was moving forward. So as he caught it, he was at the line of scrimmage a half second later, and was gone. And they were chasing him, and he had one guy to beat, and he beat him. And it was crazy. And that walk-off, those guys were all bunched up, and he pops out. That was crazy when he popped out.
And then it was like, wait, now he's got to run away.
Now he's going to outrun everybody, which
and no offense, for that guy to do that wasn't the guy that you would say, okay, he's going to separate and run away from somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, correct. And all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, that just happened. And they had kind of done, like you said, everything right leading up to that point.
Right. There was exactly. Like
they went down the field. They ate a bunch of clock, right? Like they ate a bunch of clock. They just, to me, the only thing they did wrong is they just kind of like played for that. Okay, we'll go kick a field goal, and didn't like push it or get down because of, hey, we don't want this to happen. And then they only kicked the field goal, and it was like, all right, this is the only thing we can kind of do. And it wasn't like we put together some crazy like.
It was wedge.
It was like, hey, this is the kick return we're going to go with, and here's what they're going to do, right? Like they're going to kick it on the ground, and they're going to like whatever, but hey, you get it, and you get what you can, and then if we have some time, we'll run a play or whatever. And then it was just like, oh man, this is what's happening. And it's like, oh shit. I mean,
the best part of all of it, which I had to cut off for Bobert's sake, was when me and Bobert's I did the air chest bump with him, and I got a lot more,
he was
I got a lot more air than he did.
He's still there, you know that, right?
Okay, great.
He's still coaching there, bro. He's still there.
Is Matt still there?
Yeah, he's the OC.
Okay.
We took him from a video coordinator to an O-line coach to you're the OC, buddy.
Here you go. Let's roll.
Let's rock. And some of those other guys are still doing stuff other places too. Like guys that were with us, but kind of, went a different way.
Okay.
They're administrators now, but still coach at other places. Norm, I think, is down at Southern. Okay. Coach Green is still working with Shore a little bit, but he's a vice principal at the high school at RBR. So that staff, all those guys are off doing it. D. Smith is just still popping out kids left and right. I saw him a couple weeks ago.
Does he still run the Swish? No.
I don't think I don't know what he does with the store anymore or whatnot, but I know his brother, J.R. Smith, just graduated from North Carolina A&T, I think. He went back to college and was was a high-level college golfer. Because remember, he never went to college.
Brother, I watched play. Yeah. I watched him play. What's the name of the team that's in Asbury? Not Asbury.
Yes.
Belmont.
It's basketball, right?
It's like a pro team.
Right. I forget the name of it.
I don't know if they call it semi-pro or pro, but like they play
it's like it's not G League or whatever, but it's somewhat
it's like a level below it. Yeah.
Right. It's almost like baseball, like single A,
huge,
triple A, double A. Dave, monsters. There's a graphic. I'll send it to you about yesterday that I saw posted. It was the percentages of high school kids playing college sports, and it broke it down like any level, Division I, Division II, Division III, whatever. Football, 8% of high school athletes play in college at some level, whether it's NAIA 3, 2, 1, right? Only 8% of every high school football player in the country plays at the next level.
Wow.
But everybody thinks that's the norm. And that's before you even get into scholarship. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Crazy. So, but hey, man, enjoy your weekend, huh?
I will.
God, if we could finish every week with a Coach Brinson, dude, that'd be fire.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
It's
Great interview. Time flew. So
that's how we know it's a good one. All right, man.
No doubt.
Talk to you this weekend.
All right, you got it. Great job.